Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go.
Hi, everybody. I am Tracy Stuckrath. Welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. We've covered everything from alpha-gal, which is the meat allergy, to, oh my gosh, I don't even remember what we've covered, but so many good things. And today, my friend Lisa is here, and Lisa Rosenberg from Safe and Included. She is a licensed clinical therapist who specializes in working with caregivers and individuals struggling with food allergy anxiety and disordered eating patterns due to their food allergies. She is also an adult living with food allergies and a food allergy parent. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So everybody that's listening, we're talking about the psychosocial impacts that food allergies have. And it's like, oh, stay away, or don't come to this event, or don't come into my restaurant, right?
Yeah.
That has on that. So tell people what kind of psychosocial impact that food allergies do have.
Sure. So, what's interesting is that there's definitely in today's society such a big focus on mental health, right? There's such a need, and the wait lists are so long, we can't find enough clinicians to help everybody. And previously, before the pandemic, there has already been a really high amount of research about the psychosocial impact on specifically food allergies and the food allergy community. And what we've seen and started to see increasing over the past few years, especially since things have started to open up again within the past 6 months, right, is an even further increase specifically on the food allergy anxiety. Wow. Because over the pandemic, so pre-pandemic, we as parents, if we have kids with food allergies or caregivers, we were afraid often to let our kids do anything, right? Well, how do we send them to play dates? How do we let them go to birthday parties? How do we send them to camp? How do we let them do life, right? So we were paralyzed often with fear, and we sometimes pass that on to our children. Sometimes we were trying to help our children get through their own fear and didn't know how to help them navigate it. But then the pandemic hit, right? So everything shut down. So right, as we were building our own skills, as our kids were building their skills, as they grew and developed of how to navigate their food allergies, everything came to a screeching halt. And we kind of had that break in the action of like, yes, all we have to do is stay in our safe bubble, right? We didn't have to go to restaurants or have the pressure of, birthday parties and, after school activities and dance and all these things. Right. So we were able to kind of relax and just be in our safe bubble for a while. And now that things are opening up, we're seeing there's such a significant backslide in those skills of how to navigate, safely navigate and enjoy life again. Because the food industry has changed so much. The supply chains have changed so much. Right. The staffing has changed and continues to change, and the shortages, so we're trying to go, okay, I want to go back out to a restaurant, but where they used to get their food from, they don't have the same suppliers. And I don't know, what the safety is. And, their chef isn't the chef that's been there for 20 years, is not in the field anymore. So how do I know that they can navigate my food allergies safely or my child's food allergies, right? Right. Or even schools. We're seeing it, schools were so COVID focused, which was great in a lot of ways because everyone was focused on washing hands and wiping tables and desks. Now they're starting to ease back off of that, and food is coming back into the classroom more again. Right. And so we're starting to see kids again, starting to get that increase of anxiety and not wanting to go to school. They don't want, they're starting, I'm seeing more of that in my practice of, parents calling me of school avoidance, specifically because of that food allergy anxiety, because food is coming back into the classroom setting more again now.
And they haven't been there in 2 years or 18 months, and new parents or people have moved, relocated because of COVID, and and actually on Wednesday when when I was talking to Amanda about Alpha Gal, she just went to an industry conference, and the woman who runs the conference, Amanda was like going to go to one of these food functions, and the woman's like, they don't have enough staff, and I don't trust the fact that they can get your allergy correct. So she ended up eating in her room with the food that she brought with her from home.
Yep. So that's unfortunately what I've done also recently when I've traveled for work, because it's not worth the risk, and it doesn't make us feel good though, right? Like even as an adult, it doesn't feel good to be excluded no matter how old we are. And even though people aren't intentionally trying to exclude us, the fact that they tell us, listen, we can't safely accommodate you, at least made me feel like I'm not important enough to figure out how to take care of. Right. And that doesn't feel good. And when someone, I'll give you another example. I was at a workshop the other night, and there was an activity, and they were asking for volunteers, and they said, listen, we need some volunteers to come up front, but there's a few things. You can't have food allergies to do this. You can't do this. And that was the first thing, was you can't have food allergies. If you're going to volunteer, you can't have food allergies. And
wow.
Right. And it wasn't that they were trying to be disrespectful, but they were trying to keep everyone safe. Right. We want to make sure that you don't have any issues. There's no label on what we're going to do for this food. But the inclusion piece is where that psychosocial impact is lacking, like the knowledge about how that when you're not inclusive, no matter what age group we're talking about, it can be such a detriment to someone's self-worth.
Right. Well, and it reminds me, I just did a session 2 weeks or a week ago, whenever it was, and I got these cookies. They were vegan cookies, and they were wheat-free. And I brought 3 of them into my session to educate, and I gave one to one guy, and I gave him a note. I'm like, eat this freely. And I did ask everybody, do you have food allergies before I gave them, right? Like, eat this freely. And then I gave one to another woman, and it says, ask the person giving it to you, I'm allergic to such and such. Does this have it in there? And then the other woman was, I think it was vegan, but she didn't know. The server, we were pretending the server didn't know. And she's like, I'm vegan. And he runs off and gets her takes the cookie away and gives her an apple instead. Right. And then the other woman ironically did have, and she's like, I'm not going to touch this until you tell me what's in it, because I don't know. I don't want to eat it. And so just showing the 3 different scenarios, of how that, and how do you feel as a vegan saying, granted the cookie was vegan, but how do you know when they take food away from you?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, my family has been to a restaurant not that long ago, since COVID has reopened things. And, I called ahead of time of like, hey, here's our allergies. Do you feel comfortable serving us? We went through all the protocols we normally go through. We sit down, we talk to the chef. We have our chef cards to communicate our allergies. Again, 3 out of 4 of us in my family have multiple food allergies. So it's a process when we go out, because they're all different food allergies, and some of them are top 9 and some aren't. So it's hard, right? But we do our due diligence, and they reassured us, yes, we can do this. When they brought my daughter's food out, it was only pasta. And she had ordered meatballs and pasta, and she was really upset. Like, she kept it together because she was, and she said, and I said, what, we went through all of this. You told us this, it was safe. We ordered it. And where's the meatballs? And the waitress goes, oh, the chef didn't feel comfortable. Serving you. And I said, wow. Okay. I appreciate that one, right? I'd rather be safe than sorry. Truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. But where's the communication with that piece? Right? It's the people, I feel like, are getting it more in terms of the safety piece of it. Like that's become more of a ingrained in our society more so than before of, hey, do you have food allergies? How do we, right? But it's not looking at the next step of it, of the, okay, so how do we also accommodate you safely? We can keep you safe by not including you. Right. You can come, we can keep you safe. And that's important. Absolutely. But then how do we make you also feel welcome? And that's the piece that's missing. And that I think we're seeing why there's a spike in that psychosocial impact on food allergies, because people aren't getting that, wow, what can we do differently to be inclusive? Right. And that's a really good way to look at it, because we have to provide something, right? And before we got on, I was talking about the picture that I found of this girl sitting at a table with just a pea on her plate, right? And that's kind of what you get. You get steamed carrots, or you get steamed broccoli, and actually in my presentations, I have this picture of this really pretty painted deck that walks out onto a beach, that goes all the way out to the beach. And there's a big party at the end of the beach. I said, but when the person with the wheelchair, who utilizes a wheelchair, gets to the end of that, what do they do? Right. So same kind of thing with the food allergies. I'm like, we come to this party or this event, food is included in my registration fee. Right. And you actually just witnessed that with one of our friends at a conference, right? Yeah. And her daughter walking around and couldn't find anything. Yeah. Couldn't. And that was an allergy conference, right? Right. So, I mean, that's, think about that. These are the people who are well-versed in it, and that's their area of expertise professionally and sometimes personally. And it's still not fully there. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Right. And I say yet because there is a power of yet. I strongly believe that power of yet. And I love that power of that yet. Yeah, we're getting there, but it still takes time. Sure. So before we chatted, one of the questions that I love this. What is the best part about having food allergies? And people are going to think that's like weird question. Right. One of the things that I try to keep in mind is really looking for the positive, because positive mindset gives you a positive experience, right? It's that what we've always learned in the past, are you looking at the glass half empty or half full? But really, when it comes to food allergies, there's so much that's not in our control about situations that I find it really helpful to focus on what is in our control and how can we make it a positive experience from what's in our control. Okay. And so that's starting with that mindset of, well, what's awesome about having food allergies? Because I can't change them yet, right? Like there's not a cure yet, but I get to have, myself and my children get to have, hot meals. Everything is prepared when we go out. If, as long as we're at a safe place, we get everything catered to our needs specifically for us. Right. So if I want something, yes, anyone can go to a restaurant and you can make requests of, having this on the side or that on the side, but they meaning the chefs or the managers, will often come out to the table and sit down with us and see us as a person, right? We're not just a guest at the restaurant. We're a person. They take their time. We get that special, that attention in a special way of like, okay, what are your needs and how can we meet them? And if I am a lot of them are very accommodating in bringing out labels or taking pictures of labels. And the way that I see that, again, that's a privilege. Like I see that as a positive. What other consumer at a restaurant can know what goes into their food? Every little thing. Like I want to know, are you putting junk in my food or is it like all whole foods, right? Like all unprocessed, what? Who gets to do that but food allergy people, right? Number one. Right. Number two, it's hot, right? We don't have food coming off of a buffet. We don't have food coming off of a line that's been sitting under a heat lamp. We get everything literally made from scratch. Pretty cool. I get to know ahead of time that they know me. I'll call ahead of time. I talk to somebody. I get their name. When I walk in, I have that familiar voice and name, sometimes face as well. And that builds relationships with people. I love that. Right? Yeah. Like I can walk into 5, 6 different restaurants in our area. And because of our food allergies, they know us, right? They know us. Oh, yeah. Hey, good to see you. Even though I might have only been there once before, but because we have to take that extra step, we make that connection. What a great experience.
Yep.
Right? We don't think about that. We don't think of it that way, but like, I love being known. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't want everyone knowing my whole medical history, but that comes with, we work on that. But, but sometimes it's nice to walk in and feel I get special treatment, and that's a good thing sometimes.
Well, and it reminds me of this story I took off of Twitter a couple of years ago from Gluten Free and Glittery, and I need to email her. But she was in a restaurant in some foreign country, and one of the waiters was about to serve her a plate of toast, and this waitress that she had the day before starts running across the room saying, "No, sans gluten." And she wrote, "I love how she cared for me. She just learned about this yesterday, and now she's trying to educate one of her coworkers and keep me safe." Yeah. And I love that positive story about that,
Yeah. Because you know what? And this is something that I try to share with the general population. We as food allergy individuals or families living with food allergies appreciate even the smallest behavior to keep us feeling like you care, right? That empathy, little empathy goes a long way, right? Because we feel seen.
Right.
When we feel seen and when we feel heard, seen, feel that we are worthwhile, our needs are worthwhile for you to spend that extra few minutes to make us feel included, that's life-changing. Right?
Yeah, it really is.
And that's where I think a lot of it is missing in our society. It's that empathy, but empathy comes from understanding and education, right? We don't know what other people might be going through or feeling if we aren't educated about some of the challenges.
Right.
Right. And so part of building empathy is teaching others about our experiences and the challenges we might have, and then working towards finding solutions to them, right? Not just, we don't go in, it's not helpful to go in and demand things, right? It's saying, hey, I have this challenge. Here's what I might consider a solution. Are you able to do that? And if not, what is something that you could do to help me overcome that challenge in your environment?
I love that. All right. Now we have 2 comments here that kind of go into that. Lynn says the best part is that your food is prepared exactly how you like it.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
True.
Exactly.
I mean, listen, everyone says that Disney's the best, right? Food allergies. Anyone in the food allergy world goes, Disney's the best. I spent hours and hours and hours pre-pandemic when we went to Disney with my family on the phone with every single chef. They created individualized, personalized menus for every single meal of ours. And we ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner prepared by somebody else. At one point, one of the chefs was so excited that they could prepare something for us to meet all of our varying needs. They shut down a part of a restaurant just to have a private, give us privacy for the chef to present all of these desserts that he made from scratch because he was so excited to be able to give us that experience.
That's awesome.
I get chills talking about it, but do we expect that from everyone? Absolutely not. Right. But what an amazing, the way that we felt seen and worthwhile rather than, another food allergy person we have to accommodate, right? Because so often we are met with that, kind of response.
Well, and that goes with Lisa's comment here. People are hesitant to ask for accommodations.
With Rachel's comment. Yeah. Right.
Like, I mean, because you do get that rolling of the eyes or, oh, I don't know. Or like my friend Bob, who did the switch for the cookie. It's like, oh, we don't have anything vegan here. Here's just an apple. Right. Yeah.
And, one of the things I work on with clients when I'm seeing them specifically for anything, any type of therapy, we have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yep. Right? Like part of our diagnosis of food allergies is that we often have to be uncomfortable more than others just to be safe and included in life. And so the more comfortable we can be, being uncomfortable, the easier our life gets.
That's a really good point, because it does get challenging, and we have to be able to own that challenge and advocate for that challenge
and not be embarrassed or apologize for it. One of the I think it was Allergic Living put out a article yesterday about not sorry. Like I won't
saw
apologize.
that. Yep.
And I was like, yes, because honestly, what is that teaching our kids if we apologize every time we say, oh, I'm really sorry, but it's teaching them that there's shame associated with that. Right. With that diagnosis. And there's nothing to be shame about. They didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to be sorry about. It's saying, hey, I have this need. Can you meet it? And if not, thank you for letting me know. And we go on our way. Or if not, hey, if you do this, then you can accommodate it. Are you willing to do this? Whatever this is, Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I'm going to post, because I have that link actually really right up on my screen. So I'm going to post that link to that story. Well, it reminds me, because actually Allergic Living a couple of weeks ago put out, hey, what's your best food story? Yeah. And I commented on Chef Jason in Atlanta. And at the time he worked at, I forgot the name of the restaurant. Anyways, it was an author dinner. And it was an 8-course meal. And I'm like, I really want to go to this because I know the author's brother and all that. And all the meals were based on her book. But I reached out to him, and going back to your thing at the very beginning where you said, let's focus on the positives, right? And I gave him my can't have list, but I gave him my can have list.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he posted it all over the kitchen. And he said, Tracy, this was the best. Yeah. And he made me appetizers. He made me 8 courses, sat me at the table with the author. And I don't expect that from everybody, like you said, but it was just, I got to experience this $100 dinner,
And how really did you feel from that? Like, how did you feel?
I felt cared for and seen. Yeah. And actually I've reconnected with him. I said, Jason, I tagged you in the story, and I'm going to have him on the show. Cause I think it's really important the way that he looked at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And that's right. Like, that's really life-changing. It really is, because now you have that experience as a model of what you want and how you want to feel. And then it gives us the opportunity to think about, well, how can we get it then? If we're explicit in what we want, the conversation happens with people of, well, how can we make that happen? How can we get what we need?
Right. I was going to say, so how do you turn that around for that chef or that server to get them to say, when we're asking explicitly what we want, to not look at it as, stay away from me? Does that make sense?
Great question. Yeah. So often the way that I try to prepare is I think about, it's not so much what I want, but what I need, right? Okay. I need to have a safe meal, right? That's what I need. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I try to think about wherever I'm going, how do I see my needs getting met? What do I think the feasible solution is? So that might be, my need might be, I have to bring my own food that time because there's no possible way. I don't see a solution. My need might be, I have to bring I have to be safe. And my solution might be, I'm going to call the chef ahead of time and get a sense of what they can do to accommodate me and have that conversation. If, what I really think in order to kind of answer your question is, it has to be about communication, because if we go in there telling somebody what we need and how to meet that need, they might be like, whoa, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
So I'm just not going to. If we go in there and say, here's the need, here's what's worked for me before, like I've done this, this, and this. Do you think that's something that you can do? It gives them a chance to be part of the conversation, because they're doing the task. So if our solution doesn't allow them to, if they're not able to do the task, or if they feel like they're not able to do it, they're not going to do it. Right? It's all about control. Right. If they don't have control of how they're meeting our needs, they're not going to be on board to do it.
That is like that theory of, it's my idea, but I'm going to make it your idea.
Exactly.
So, and getting that full participation, because, and actually Bob and I were talking about it in our session. It's like, if I tell you, you're probably going to forget it. If I show you, you might remember a little bit, but if I include you, then it's going to get done.
Right.
Right.
It's like the whole teach a man to fish and they'll eat for life, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, when I started as a therapist, that has always been my focus of my goal is to empower clients, right? My goal, and I always tell them this, I'm like, my goal is to have you not need me anymore, right? Like that is my goal. I want to be able to help you find and empower you with whatever it is that you feel like is missing, what skills are missing, what experiences are missing, how do we get them, empower you with them, practice them, and then send you on your way, right? Because how good do we feel when we can do things on our own? Just like when little kids, right? When little kids learn to dress themselves, it's like life-changing. But it's that same experience with things, anything in life. When we are confident that we can do something, we do it.
Right.
And we do it and we feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that same concept. If you're asking someone to do something to accommodate us, we want them to feel confident in doing it.
Right.
And the way we see them doing it might be different than the way they see themselves doing it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So we have to take their strengths and have those conversations of how do you think you can make this work? Here are my needs. How do you think you can meet them? And let's talk about it.
I love that because it's like, even as a meeting planner going, okay, here are the list of 25 different dietary needs, right? And I'm looking at your menus, they're not coded. So what can you do? Right. And even with giving them, and Jason made this point to me, he's like, when you give me the list of what you can't have, it shuts me down.
Yeah.
Right. And when you, and even so, even as a person, as a food allergic person, looking at, like you said, the positives, this is what I can have. Well, I can't have wheat, but I can have corn and I can have millet and I can, and quinoa or whatever. Right.
Right.
These are the things that looking at the positive sides, right?
And it takes the guesswork out of those substitutions, right? When someone's like, oh, I need a vegan cake without eggs. And I'm like, okay, here's 15 different vegan recipes. I have them all for you. I know you want a different egg substitute. I can make anything. You name it. I got 15 different egg substitutes. I'll tell you what works best with what, right? It's making it easy for them.
Right.
It's making it easy for them. That's helpful for us.
Yep. And Rachel, you're right. And reiterating what Lisa said, education and respectful communication is key. 100%.
Yeah.
And as Lisa, as you were saying, supply chains and staff shortages, and, we also have to be respectful and be graceful in that request now because of lack of time, lack of staff to maybe do some of this stuff. So I like, and I think for meeting planners, that's why it's really important to do this planning well in advance versus, at the last minute. Yeah.
And I'm scheduled to do a webinar in the fall with a group of panelists that just from the restaurant industry.
Okay.
To discuss some of the challenges they have at accommodating food allergic guests. And, what's worked for them, what they've learned from mistakes, what hasn't worked. Like we're really going to have some discussion about that. So stay tuned for some of that. But that, I think it needs to be the conversation so we can understand each other. Right?
Exactly. Very, very, very good point. Because, and one hotelier chef I was talking about, he's like, I don't have time right now to look at new menus, and I don't have time to, because I was introducing him to some new products for vegans and egg free. And he's like, I've never heard of this before, but they don't, because we live it, we know about it, and it's not necessarily part of their everyday life.
Right. And I think that is key. Like I always try to remind food allergy families that are frustrated. I say, listen, they don't live it. They don't understand. I don't know what the challenges are. If I living in a wheelchair, I don't understand what challenges there are from day to day unless I live it. So it's just keeping that in mind can be helpful in decreasing our frustrations with people that don't live it.
Right. Exactly. So what are some additional advice that you can give for both sides of that equation? You've given some great advice. I don't know what else you can give, but any other tips that you have?
Yeah. What I think is super helpful is when there's a challenge, when we feel like there's an obstacle as a food allergy family, an adult, a child, regardless of who it is, it's really looking at what is like, let's really pinpoint what's the problem or challenge that we're faced with. And what do we see as like, what's our goal?
Mm-hmm.
And then what do we see as possible solutions? Right. Because it's really taking the method of problem solving and breaking it down and then being able to communicate it rather than seeing a challenge and going, oh, we can't do that. Sorry. And so that's the same for both sides, right? For the food allergic individual and for the restaurateurs or the meeting, whatever we're talking about for someone accommodating us. It's looking at what is the challenge, what need has to be met, what's the goal of that challenge. So like, oh, I want to be included and safely eat dinner. And then it's conversating. It's having the conversation about what the possible solutions are and agreeing to trying one of them or a bunch of them. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I feel like if nothing else, that if you can live with the lens of the problem solving method and going through the steps, that can be life-changing in how we approach food allergies, because there's always a solution. I always tell clients, have you ever not solved a problem in your life? Right. And they look at me and go, oh, you're right. I solved every single one of them. Right. In some way, shape, or form, we have.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So I'm going to turn it a little bit because years ago, because it just popped into my head. Years ago, one of my colleagues in my old corporate job, she's like, as a meeting planner, you're everybody's mama. And because you're ordering their airfare, you're ordering their food, you're booking their hotel rooms, etc. So as a food allergic mom, what tips do you have for a meeting planner to accommodate? Like there's one event we had 685 people with dietary requests.
Wow. Yeah.
And I know you said before we got on the show, you're managing what, 30 different dietary needs?
Yeah. In my family, I mean, if we took every single individual food that one of us can have or can't have, yeah, on any given day, yes.
And your family of 4?
A family of 4, yes.
There's
and
4.
3 out of 4 of us have multiple food allergies, and they're all different. Many of them are very different. Some are top 9, some are non-top 9. We have oral allergy syndrome we manage. We have non-IgE FPIEs that we manage. So we live it all. And I will tell you, I make one meal for dinner.
Wow.
Oh yes. Stay tuned. I will eventually be putting out recipe books, but that's later in my life, I'm sure. But yes, I have binders of recipes that I've put together because little by little, I started with one. And I think that's really important to also remember. Right? Whether it's you doing meeting planning or a parent trying to navigate mealtime, just start small, right? You didn't learn everything you knew about being the best meeting planner by learning it all at once. You just took a step, right? And that sometimes is the key to keeping that in mind is you can't climb a mountain overnight. You have to just start with a step. And that step can be as simple as finding one recipe that every single person can have in your family, and then adding another recipe the next week or the next month or even the next year. It doesn't matter, but just start small. Start at a doable task to accomplish that. And that's the same with meeting planning. Like when what advice do I have? I really think we have to take a step back and look at, yes, it's important to look at the big picture, but breaking it down allows us to not be overwhelmed, right? We call that chunking. Like just like we approach any task in life, it's just taking one piece of it and just taking that step and seeing how we do. Right. And that, again, that builds that confidence. And also remembering that progress, right? We need progress. Yeah. There's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
It's progress, not perfection. And when you look at that progress, it's never a straight line. It's the up, down, up, down, up, down, but the trend is up.
Right. I love that. And there's a slide that I do in my thing, like it lists some allergies that were given from one specific event. And like there was an allergy to pineapple, an allergy to escargot, an allergy to shellfish, whatever. I'm like, you can literally do an event without pineapple, an entire event. So that's your one little step, right?
Absolutely.
And then the next step would be to do an entire event without pineapple and escargot.
Yes.
And the same thing. So you've done 2 steps. Yeah.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the easier it is. And you build your library of reference, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, go to the source. Ask the people that live it, right? I can't tell you how many times people don't ask me for what I need.
Right.
I'm the expert on myself. I'm the expert on my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ask me.
Right.
I will help you. I'm going to tell you if you want to listen. I'll tell you right off the bat. You don't even have to ask me. But so many people go, oh, I'm the chef. I'm the expert. I should be able to figure this out. But most of the time we want to be part of that because it's our safety.
Right.
Right. So we want to be part of that conversation and to know what you're doing. And we are the experts on our own needs when it comes to food allergies. So not being afraid to ask, hey, what is it that you eat? What is it that is a good egg substitute for you that you like? Right.
Exactly. Well, and it kind of relates a couple of weeks. This event I did 2 weeks ago, it was over Passover. And we had 3 different people who are Jewish attend. And one was Orthodox Jewish, and the other 2 were Reformed, but one wanted the kosher for Passover breakfast, but he would, as long as they just wanted everything labeled if it contained wheat. Right. And so, but it was picking up the telephone or emailing them saying, hey, I got your request. Can you let me know where you stand? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the emails that I got from them were like, this was awesome. Thank you. Right.
Right.
And it just makes you seen.
It does. It makes you seen and you feel validated and important.
Right.
And that's what we want in life, right? We all want to be included, right? In any aspects. And we want to feel worthy and seen and valued.
Okay. So I love the fact that your website is called Safe and Included, or your company name is Safe and Included, but safeandincluded.com. So this is the question I always ask. What does a safe, included, and sustainable food and beverage experience mean to you?
It means kind of what we've already said. It means that I'm worth it, right? If somebody takes the time to ensure my safety and inclusion, it means that they care about me. And that could look different in different environments, right? In a meeting, it might be, someone just reaching out to me and going, hey, we saw on your registration that you have food allergies. Tell us about it. Tell me more. Right?
Yep.
That's huge. As opposed to someone emailing during registration and going, if you have food allergies, call this number. Right? If somebody, takes the time to connect with us, that's meaningful when it comes to our food allergies.
Right. Really important.
And,
really
and it's sustainable if you have a system in place when you're in, the hospitality industry, you're going to have food allergic guests. It's not a secret, right? Like at this point, it still amazes me that people don't have to be trained in the food service industry on specific food allergy protocols. That to me is mind blowing with the epidemic of food allergies that we have.
Right. Yep. It's 4 pages in the book. Yeah. That is a very good point. So what, do you have any other thoughts about this? I mean, actually I want to ask a question, because it brings up a story from an event I did years ago, but bullying and actually brings 2 stories to my mind, but one was, and I'm actually thinking more like in the workplace, because we talked schools, we talked meetings and events, and in the workplace, like when I first got diagnosed, and this is back in 2004, we had a staff meeting and they were serving birthday cake and I couldn't eat it. And my boss's boss just looked at me and she just eat the cake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now doing the work that I do, I'm like, that was a form of bullying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't. Right.
Yeah. So I cannot stand food functions at work because I feel like I'm always the butt of jokes. Always. Oh, you can't eat that. That's right. Oh, what can you eat? Here's ice. Here's a cup of ice. Right.
Yeah.
And, I don't make a big deal out of it there are times when I say, hey, when you're ordering, don't forget I have food allergies. Can you order this? Or can you order from here? I don't like doing that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. There are times when I don't feel like it's worth doing it. So I don't. And I just I go, my focus on anything, any event is not the food. I can't focus on the food, because if I did, I would be miserable all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. I really try to focus on what's the function of the get together or of the meeting, or when I think about bullying at work, I try to think about, for food allergy bullying, I try to speak up. And that's where that educational piece happens right. I will say, hey, I know you're trying to be funny, and I know it is, but it's not. It makes me feel bad about myself because it's something that's not in my control, and you're poking fun at it. Mm-hmm. So could you not do that? Right. What I try to do is tell them how it makes me feel. I use what we call I statements, what they did makes me feel and what I want them to do instead. Okay. So, it makes me feel really uncomfortable, or it makes me feel, frustrated when you make jokes about my food allergies. Can you please not do that in the future? Right? Usually they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. They might get mad later, but that's not my problem. Right? You made me uncomfortable. You made me feel not so good. That's not okay. That's not okay. Right. But most people are really respectful when they realize it and go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was just kidding. I didn't mean to. But if we don't speak up and advocate for our needs in the workplace in a respectful way, again, it's how we do it, then it's going to continue to happen unless we put a stop to it.
Right. Okay. That's a lot to ponder, and a lot of really, really good tips for both of us on all sides of the kitchen counter, the kitchen table, or the dining room table. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
It has been awesome. And I'm excited to have this conversation, because and what you said can be applied to so many different things. Yeah. Because it's also Celiac Disease Awareness Month, and it could be applied to that. But it could also be applied for anyone needing any assistance at an event or meeting in the workplace, right?
It's also Mental Health Awareness Month. So when we look at it is, yeah. So both of my professions came together, food allergies and mental health this month. So, but it's true, right? Mindset. It's about mindset. I'm of the realm of CBT, your thoughts, cognitive behavioral therapy. Your thoughts control how you feel, which control what you do. So when you change your thoughts, you feel differently about a situation, and you do something differently because of it.
That we are going to end on that, because that's fantastic. Right. Thank you, Lisa Rosenberg.
Thank you.
You're welcome, everybody. You can, I put it up there earlier, but I'm going to put it up here again. You can find Lisa at safeandincluded.com. And all of her Instagram and social media profiles are that as well. Yes, Rachel just said, Rachel, thank you for being here. And she said, thanks for your time and insights.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for sharing your story a couple of weeks ago, because that was a really important story that you shared about the anxiety of, shopping for your kid during the middle of the religious holidays. So everybody, this is the Eating at a Meeting podcast right here, wherever my finger is. And we are here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. This week, we're here every single day. Tomorrow, I've got 2 back-to-back episodes, one with Kyle Dine and one with Karen Palmer, talking about equal eating and just some additional last-minute thoughts on food allergies, because it's Food Allergy Awareness Week. You can download the podcast on all podcast platforms, and every one of these episodes this week will be posted in May. So thank you so much for everybody. Lisa, you're a rock star. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until next time, stay safe and eat well.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.